Okay, so welcome to part 2 of the lesson, and we finished this activity at the end of part 1, but I want to go back to this question and look at it one more time. The question is, what happened? And as I mentioned, this is a past tense question. So if we were to answer the question with a short answer, we could just say, a tree fell on her house. A tree fell on her house. So that's the short answer because this is the past tense and this question is also past tense. But how do you make a question for the past continuous activity? So we actually already practiced this in the beginning of this lesson. So in part 1, after we listened to the audio about Monica and Samantha and Mr. Purdy, you heard a question that I asked. I said, what was Mr. Purdy doing when he got robbed? Okay, what was Mr. Purdy doing? So we can make the same question for each of these pictures. We can say, what was the woman doing when a tree fell on her house? Okay, what was the woman doing when a tree fell on her house? So if we were to answer with a short answer, we could just say, she was working. She was working. That's the short answer because that's also past continuous. Okay, so let's practice that for number 2. What can you ask for number 2 for the continuous activity? Okay, so you can say, what was the couple doing when they ran out of gas? Or what were the man and woman doing when they ran out of gas? Okay, and so of course the short answer is they were driving. Okay, let's do the same thing for number 3. Make a past continuous question. Okay, so we can say, what was the couple doing when they got a parking ticket? Or what were the man and woman doing when they got a parking ticket? And the short answer is they were eating. Okay, and then the last one, number 4, make a question with past continuous. Okay. Okay, so we can say, what was the man doing when the lights went out? What was the man doing when the lights went out? Okay, so now I want to go back to page 114 and I want you to practice making questions for each sentence, but I want you to, well, let's see. You can use make a question with the past continuous or the past tense. So let's look at number 1, for example. While Dad was working in the garden, a thief stole his car. So if we make a past continuous question, we can say, what was Dad doing when a thief stole his car? What was Dad doing when a thief stole his car? Okay, now if we want to make a past tense question, we can say, what happened, just like we learned on the other page. We can say, what happened while Dad was working in the garden? What happened while Dad was working in the garden? Okay, so actually, you know what? Let me write these questions down so you can... Oh, it's not popping. There we go. Okay, so let me put it here. No. Okay, actually, I'll put it here. Oh, no, it doesn't go all the way. Okay, sorry, and thank you for being patient. Okay, so one question we can ask, I'm going to put past continuous. What was Dad doing when a thief stole his car? Okay, so as you can see, this question is for the past continuous, and this is the adverb clause, when a thief stole his car. Okay? And then the past tense is what happened while Dad was working in the garden. Okay, and this is also the adverb clause beginning with while. Okay, so, sorry about that. Okay, so again, these are some examples of what you can do for the other sentences. So I'll give you some time to practice making questions for each of these, and you don't have to do both questions. You can just do one. If you want to do both, that's great. But you can just practice one because there are a lot of sentences. Okay, so pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so let me close this one. Okay, so for number 2, you can ask, what were you doing when the fire alarm suddenly went off? Or you can just say when the fire alarm went off. What were you doing when the fire alarm went off? And of course the short answer is I was eating lunch. Or you can ask, what happened while you were eating lunch? What happened while you were eating lunch? And the short answer is the fire alarm suddenly went off. Okay? And then number 3, you can ask, what happened while Ali was painting the ceiling? What happened while Ali was painting the ceiling? Or you can say, what was Ali doing when he fell off a ladder? What was Ali doing when he fell off a ladder? Okay, number 4, you can ask, what happened while the students were taking a test? Or you can ask, what were the students doing when the earthquake started? Okay, and then number 5, you can ask, what happened while you were making a right turn? Or, what were you doing when another car hit the back of your car? Number 6, we can ask, what were you doing when it began to rain? Or, what happened while you were camping? Number 7, what were Mr. and Mrs. Gomez doing when a dog began to chase them? Or, what happened while Mr. and Mrs. Gomez were jogging in the park? And then number 8, what was Diana doing when a stranger drove up to her house? Or, what happened while Diana was working outside? And then number 9, you can ask, what were you doing when someone broke into your garage and stole your new lawnmower? Or you can ask, what happened while you were driving to the beach? Okay, that was a lot, but I hope that was helpful. And as I mentioned, with a lot of practice, it becomes easier. Okay, so now we are going to just briefly look at exercise 3, communicate. So let's describe a situation that happened to you. Okay, and you can answer these questions. And actually, these questions will show you exactly what we practiced. So, for example, what happened? This is the past tense activity. So you might say, for example, the plane took off. The plane took off. And then when and where did it happen? So we might say this morning at the airport, of course, because the plane took off. So this morning at the airport. So it says, the number 3 says, what were you doing when it happened? So you might say, I was running to the gate. I was running to the gate. So if you make one sentence, you could say, I was running to the gate this morning at the airport when the plane took off. So again, I was running to the gate at the airport this morning when the plane or when my plane took off. Okay? I might say, while I was working on a video lesson, my baby started to cry. While I was working on a video lesson this morning, my baby started to cry. Okay, so I want you to take some time to make some sentences based on these 3 questions. So you can make 3 separate sentences, or you can make 1 long sentence with all 3 of these. So you can pause the video and make some sentences, just a few, and then you can continue when you're finished. Okay, so now we are going to look at a worksheet and practice again for the past continuous and simple past. So let's take a look at exercise A. Complete the sentences with the past continuous or simple past of the correct verb. Okay, so let's look at number 1 together. Julia was working in the garden when she saw the fire. So we used work right here and see right here. So you can change work to past continuous and see to past tense, which is saw. Okay, so take some time to complete this activity, and you can pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so let's take a look at number 2. Okay, so we can say, I was driving too fast around a corner when I hit a tree. Okay, and then number 3, while Frank was cooking dinner, his sister called. Okay, number 4, the fire alarm went off while we were taking a break. Number 5, when the robber broke into the house, they were visiting the neighbors. Number 6, when the rain started, we were studying in the library. Okay, so let me just go over a few of these sentences. So as you can see, hold on, sorry, just a second. Okay, yes. So when she saw the fire, this is the interruption. So we have to use the when clause, when she saw the fire, and it's past tense. Same thing here. When I hit a tree, this is also past tense. It's the interruption. So we use the when clause. And here it says while Frank was cooking dinner, this is the continuous activity, so we use while. And then his sister called, that's the interruption. Okay, so it's past tense. Number 4, the fire alarm went off while we were taking a break. So this is the continuous activity, and that's why we use the past continuous. And then this is the interruption. The fire alarm went off, so it's past tense. Number 5, when the robber broke into the house, that's past tense because it's the interruption, the sudden activity. They were visiting the neighbors. This is the continuous activity. They were visiting, so past continuous. And then when the rain started, this is the sudden activity, sudden event, so we use when, and then past tense. We were studying in the library. This is the ongoing activity that was already happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and do exercise B. Exercise B, okay? So rewrite the sentences. While Bill was eating dinner, he heard a noise in the garden. Okay, so you can put the while adverb clause in the back of the sentence. So you can see here, Bill heard a noise in the garden while he was eating dinner. Okay, and remember, you don't have to say Bill again. You can just say he for the second part of the sentence. Okay, now I want you to do one more thing actually. So I also want you to change the sentence from using while to using when. So for this sentence, we could say, actually, I'm sorry, let me put it here. Okay, so we can say Bill, Oh my goodness, I can't type. Bill was eating dinner when he heard a noise in the garden. Okay, so as you can see, this time we use the when clause with the past tense with the interruption. So Bill was eating dinner when he heard a noise in the garden. Or you can say, when Bill heard a noise in the garden, he was eating dinner. So you can put the when clause in the beginning, but you have to change he to Bill. Okay? Well, actually, it's not necessary. You can keep it he. When he heard a noise in the garden, Bill was eating dinner, because Bill was eating dinner is the main clause. So usually we put the main subject in the main clause and the pronoun subject in the dependent clause. But don't worry about that too much. It's confusing. So you can just put the name in the first part of the sentence. That's easier to remember. Okay, so pause the video and continue when you're finished. Okay, so for number 2, while Bohe and Sophia were waiting for a bus, they phoned their friends. And phoned means called. This is the British way to say it, but in American English, we just say called. Okay, so anyway, Bohe and Sophia phoned their friends while they were waiting for a bus. Okay, and I also asked you to make another sentence using the other adverb. So instead of while, we can use when. So we can say when they, or actually, okay, Bohe and Sophia phoned their friends. They were waiting for a bus. Okay? And then let's do number 3. When Liana and I heard the fire alarm, we were taking a test. So we can say Liana and I were taking a test when we heard the fire alarm. Okay? Remember, this is first person plural because it includes I, so we have to say we. Liana and I were taking a test when we heard the fire alarm. Let's make another sentence using while. Okay? While Liana and I were taking a test, we heard the fire alarm. Okay? And again, as I mentioned, you can put the adverb clause in the back. Okay, but then if you do that, you do not need a comma, no comma. Okay, and same here. When you can say Bohe and Sophia were waiting for a bus when they phoned their friends. So same thing. You can put this adverb clause in the back, but no comma. Okay, number 4. Teresa was eating a sandwich when she broke her tooth. So same thing. When Teresa was, when Teresa broke her tooth, she was eating a sandwich. Okay, and then we can also make another sentence with while. You can say, while Teresa was eating a sandwich, comma, she broke her tooth. Okay, or Teresa broke her tooth while she was eating a sandwich. Okay, and then number 5. When Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez came home, they were carrying a lot of bags. So we can say Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez were carrying a lot of bags when they came home. Okay, we're carrying a lot of bags when they came home. And then another sentence we can say, using while, we can say, Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez came home while they were carrying a lot of bags. Okay, and then finally number 6. Joe and Omar saw a deer while they were jogging in the park. So we can say, while Joe and Omar were jogging in the park, they saw a deer. Okay, and then another sentence we can make with when is, when Joe and Omar saw a deer, they were jogging in the park. Okay? All right. So you can go ahead and go to part 3 of this lesson, part 3.